I still see falling blocks in my dreams.
Tetris. Who knew a retro 80s game had such an exciting and honestly scary story behind it? I'm gonna be taking you behind the scenes so you can find out exactly what's real and what's fiction. The laws that Henk Rogers brought to the Soviet Union that almost landed him in a gulag, and of course, the inevitable impact that COVID had on this film. Taron Egerton plays Henk Rogers in Tetris, and after reading the script, he was astounded at everything that went on surrounding the game in the 80s. He had to take a lot of advice from Henk when it came to his single-mindedness and ambition.
I'm not going home without a deal.
Because truly, who would do what he did? But yeah, apparently the film is emotionally accurate to who these characters are, so it was important for Taron to capture that within his performance. It also didn't hurt that he got to play a ton of Tetris and call it work.
These are the things I get paid to do, you know?
Speaking of accuracy, let's talk about everything the movie got right.
My feelings and the anxiety of having to end up in the Soviet Union.
Henk was filled with anxiety, mostly because he was breaking a ton of laws.
Entering a government structure without invite is highly illegal.
And knew it.
Really didn't know whether I was going to end up in a gulag or what. It just was a little scary.
Also the fact that Alexey had no idea what repercussions were going to be faced when he was working on what he calls his little baby, Tetris. When the director John S. Baird first read the script, he was shocked at how little was actually fiction.
When I realized it was true, I thought, right, I have to make this movie.
His motivation when directing the film was to make the audience feel the way he did when he first read it. Utterly shocked at the amount of danger Henk and Alexey put themselves in over Tetris. The burning question we're all dying to ask, was Taron's mustache real?
The mustache that God gave me is a little lacking, so it's a movie hell.
I don't know about you guys, but I've never worn a fake mustache.
That's a fake mustache.
So I had no idea how brutal it was. Apparently, Taron wore a fake mustache for part of the film during Eddie the Eagle, and he vowed to never put one on again.
But a bit like childbirth, I forgot.
So yeah, the mustache totally fake and apparently absolutely uncomfortable. Taron vows, yet again, that he will never put on one for the rest of his life.
Doesn't matter how much you pay me, don't let me wear a fake mustache.
Friendship is a huge theme of this movie, primarily between Henk and Alexey. Henk was the first person Alexey could ever talk with about computers.
Why can't both lines disappear at once instead of one at a time?
I never thought of that.
Considering we're in the era of technology, that's borderline insane to me.
It was only possible through this friendship between Henk and Alexey that it spread to the rest of the world.
Henk was also the first person that proposed the idea that Alexey get paid for his work.
I do not have right to receive money from my game.
Well, that's criminal.
COVID actually had a huge effect on the way this movie was shot, particularly how few extras they were allowed to have on set at once. If you notice that a few scenes, most notably the scenes in the Moscow airport, seemed a little bit low on background actors, that's why. They also struggled because their locations got derailed. They had to switch it up due to COVID.
Have you ever been in Moscow, Mr. Rogers?
They couldn't shoot in Moscow, so they ended up shooting in Scotland instead. And they got a lot of great shots in Aberdeen, which is just north of Scotland, because of these huge concrete monoliths that doubled really well for Moscow.
You are not safe until you leave Moscow. Go.
Obviously, not everything in the film is going to be a perfect mirror of real life. One of the ways they really embellished by the end of the writing process was the car chase through Moscow in the beginning. They were being metaphorical about it because Henk and Alexey were under a lot of pressure from the KGB and the Maxwells. In the end though, they thought a car chase would amp up the stakes. It actually ended up working out for them, even with the COVID delays.
We can make it! There's no wrong!
Because they never would have been able to shoot a car chase scene like that in Moscow.
You would find a really solid audience, and so I hope that's what happened.
The original cut of the film was about 2 hours and 10 minutes. It wound up being cut down to about 2 hours. The scene they ended up losing were between Henk and Sasha, the interpreter. There was actually a side story between the two characters that still kind of plays out in the final cut.
Henk, don't sacrifice everything for these.
But we ended up losing most of it. Does anyone have any theories? The only other scene that got lost was when Henk and Alexey meet over a game of chess that kind of plays out like a war between the East and West.
We come from different worlds. You go back to yours, and I'll return to mine.
Luckily though, most of the original scenes didn't end up on the cutting room floor. So, are you ready to break out your old Game Boy to beat your high score in Tetris? I honestly can't believe what an incredible story is behind such a simple game. Henk and Alexey risked their lives and brought us a truly iconic game through the power of their friendship. What was your favorite Tetris moment?